family.
Right, I am looking now.
You remember our venerable house? Opulent and imperial, gazing proudly from its stoic perch above the moor. I lived all my years in that ancient, rumor-shadowed manor, fattened by decadence and luxury. And yet I began to tire of conventional extravagance. Singular, unsettling tales suggested the mansion itself was a gateway to some fabulous and unnameable power. With relic and ritual, I bent every effort towards the excavation and recovery of those long-buried secrets, exhausting what remained of our family fortune on swarthy workmen and sturdy shovels. At last, in the salt-soaked crags beneath the lowest foundations, we unearthed that damnable portal of antediluvian evil. Our every step unsettled the ancient earth, but we were in a realm of death and madness. In the end, I alone fled laughing and wailing through those blackened arcades of antiquity, until consciousness failed me. You remember our venerable house, opulent and imperial. It is a festering abomination. I beg you, return home, claim your birthright, and deliver our family from the ravenous, clutching shadows of the darkest dungeon.
That title reveal would have been really cool if I couldn't see the title in the top left corner.
I hadn't considered that.
I just kind of glanced at that, like, unknowingly, and I was like, God damn it.
Right, because it's on your screen share, but not on the actual recording itself. Hey, everyone!
Oh.
Because OBS automatically cropped out that part of the window.
Oh, gotcha. There's a way to do that, crop the screen share too, but whatever.
Yeah, I just didn't think you'd do that. Anyway, it's too late now.
Yes, definitely. Anyway.
So how's everyone doing? It's been a while since since me and Noah specifically have done a Let's Play video. Hold on, I'm gonna...
Yeah, welcome to the HitmonChannel. Too late for proper intros. Jacob's playing Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah.
I did not know this going in, although I've heard you talk about this game.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, is there a particular reason you have a love for video games centered around haunted mansions?
You know, that's a brilliant question.
Because, like, this and Luigi's Mansion. Like, it's
oh, God,
like,
I hadn't considered that.
It's strange that it happened twice.
Anyways, we're going to play on Darkest, which is the standard difficulty. And we can briefly, since the name of our save file is also the name of the estate the Darkest Dungeon is built upon for that file, Noah, what would you like to name the estate, since I'm dragging you in for this adventure? The format is going to be... The format is The Blank Estate.
Okay.
So you can see on this file right above me here, I have it as... I accidentally forgot that the is put in automatically and named The Most Foolish Estate.
I'm trying to think of, like, a funny, thing for this. Hang on, who's one of the characters that died in Ghost Shark?
Shit.
Hang on, I'm going to the IMDb, and hang on.
Taylor. Was there a Taylor that died?
What?
Oh, Mike. Mike died. I think it was a Mike that died. Or Mick. The fat kid that died in the pool.
Well, but like blank estate, it should be a last name. The only last name I see on here is Stahl, which is the last name for the. Or no. Go with the actor's name, the Lucky Johnson estate. That name.
Was it with an H?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The Lucky Johnson estate it is.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a standard difficulty playthrough with the DLCs installed, which should be an interesting experience.
Also, for context, Jacob and I immediately before recording this recorded our miserable movie Monday viewing of Ghost Shark, which you can find over on my main page.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
Yeah, it was.
Alive along the old road. It winds with a troubling serpent-like suggestion through the corrupted countryside, leading only, I fear, to ever more tenebrous places. There is a sickness in the ancient pitted cobbles of the old road, and on its writhing path you will face viciousness, violence, and perhaps other damnably transcendent terrors. So steel yourself, and remember there can be no bravery without madness. The old road will take you to hell, but in that gaping abyss, we will find our redemption.
So yeah, it's kind of funny the timing of this. When I first wanted to do Let's Play Darkest Dungeon, like the idea came about because they had announced Darkest Dungeon 2 at the time.
How long ago was that?
Over a year ago. Like it was even before, like it was before the pandemic even.
Oh, okay.
For a reference.
Yeah.
So I had that idea in my head, but then we didn't really start getting back into Let's Play stuff until the the Paper Mario Let's Play.
Well, that wasn't the first one we did. We did
Alright, true, that's such a thing. Until around that time.
Yeah, Sunshine was the first. Like we did Sunshine and Ghost Rider.
Yeah. So it's around the time that the idea came back into my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now that we're actually doing it, I'm using timing because right around recently they finally released some more information on Darkest Dungeon 2.
I searched up Ghost Shark on Letterboxd so I can do my 10 words or less review for it. Hey, guess what?
What?
There's a Ghost Shark 2.
Oh, brilliant.
There's a Ghost Shark 2 that came out 2 years later. I wonder if it's on YouTube. I'll search that up in a bit.
Well, anyways, welcome everyone to Darkest Dungeon 2. If you guys are not familiar, it is a roguelike RPG.
It's called the Darkest Dungeon 2.
Good point. God damn it. My mind is wrapped up in things, apparently.
Was that because you had just talked about the sequel, or because I had just talked about Ghost Shark?
Because
2?
I think both, honestly.
Yeah.
There's much to be found in forgotten places. Dispatch this thug in brutal fashion, that all may hear of your arrival.
Yeah, it's a roguelike, so there's a lot of stuff that's randomized, but you always start out with this same stretch of the old road at the beginning of the gameplay section. And as well, you also start off with these two characters. Here we have Reynald, a crusader. And Dismas, the highwayman. The highwayman and crusader are two of the classes in the game. And these two, since names and appearances are randomized, they're the only two characters that are consistent between everyone's playthrough. So everyone starts out with these two guys.
Oh, gotcha. Also, I have terrible news. Ghost Shark 2 is not available on YouTube.
Damn.
Let me see if it's on the streaming service or something. even if we don't watch it for Miserable Movie Monday, I kind of want to check out.
Same here. Now I'll explain some of the stuff as we go. I'll start here. As you can see, like on this panel down here, each character has a different set of abilities that you can use in combat. They can pass the turn, they can switch positions of their characters, and then they have up to 4 at a time in combat abilities that they can use. Right, Reynolds starts out with Smite, which is a standard one-target attack. Zealous Accusation, which attacks both characters, the first 2 characters of the enemy units. Stunning Blow, which has the chance to stun an enemies, which we'll try and show off right here. Perfect. A stunned enemy no longer. A stunned enemy does not. A stunned character has to skip their next turn, unless something else clears the stun in the meantime.
Alright.
And then his last ability was Bulwark of Faith, which is we'll get into the stuff involved in that later. Then we have Dismiss, who starts off with Open Vein, which is a melee attack that can inflict bleeding. We'll get into that a little bit later. Pistol Shot, a ranged attack that hits the back 3 enemy characters. Grape Shot, which hits the first 3, all 3 of the first 3 characters in a row, like at the same time but for less damage. And then not passive right? That's a different character. And then Tracking Shot, which allows you to hit stealth characters, which we will not encounter for a while. In the meantime, I'm going to inflict some bleeding here. May as well talk about that mechanic. How the bleeding mechanic works is there's several attacks, both usable by your party members and the enemies, that can inflict bleed on whoever they hit. Bleed does a certain amount of damage over time, like so, and will inflict the damage every time you get back to a character's turn in the turn order.
Okay, so like how poison used to work in Pokemon.
Exactly. So bleeding is capable of killing enemies, as you can see right there, and it is insanely useful because it can stack with other bleeding and another condition which we'll get to later, which allow you to do massive damage just over time to enemies, which is very useful for bosses and just other enemies late game that have a large amount of health. Yep.
Also, Ghost Shark 2, by the way, it's called Ghost Shark 2 Urban Jaws. Apparently the first one has a subtitle too. It's Ghost Shark 1 Port Massacre.
Huh. Interesting.
And, Ghost Shark 2, is available to purchase on Amazon Prime Video for $10 or rent for $3. Oddly enough, the first one isn't available on Prime in any fashion. You can't even buy or rent it,
right.
Which is weird.
So real quick, as you can see here, by finishing out the enemies, we've completed the first quest of the game, which was to clear out the old road. We have 2 options. We can go to the hamlet, which we will do in a minute, or we can continue adventuring, which in a normal mission will. Which in a normal mission is often just a risk of trying to is a question of balancing the risk between trying to go onwards to collect more treasures and whatnot, or just playing it safe and return to the hamlet, which we'll have to encounter. A task we'll have to deal with at some point. But since there's a chest here that was trapped, because I forgot about that, we were staying on the old road for perhaps a bit too long. Okay. Well, now we can get to this condition. Blight. Blight works the exact same way as bleeding does, but it can affect different characters. So each character, including the enemies, has a bleed resistance and I was on the wrong one. Has a bleed resistance and a blight resistance. And different enemy types will have higher resistance to either of these. So the situations where you want to specialize in characters that use blight versus bleed and vice versa.
Gotcha.
Fortunately, returning to the hamlet, which we can do by clicking that once we've continued with the quest, immediately brings everyone back up to full health and wipes out bleeding or blighting status as if everyone is still alive. However, it doesn't wipe out everything, which we will get to in a moment. And then after completing quests, you can experience, which can be used to level up and gain quirks. Right now, we've only got positive quirks. We've only earned positive quirks, so we will get to negative quirks in a moment. Dismas has earned Unholy Slayer, which gives him better accuracy and a higher crit chance when fighting enemies with the unholy classification.
Isn't Quirks the superpowers in My Hero Academia?
Yes, yes it is.
This squalid hamlet, these corrupted lands, they are yours now, and you are bound to them.
Alright. And now, return to the hamlet. Every time you return to the hamlet, you see this thing, see the screen, which on the left is an activity log showing everything that's happened in the last week. Not much has happened in the last week other than us showing up, so not much I know what happens there. And on the right side is just the ability to just track the various goals you have throughout the game. These bottom set is just max out a character of each class. We're not going to worry too much about that. But this top set here, most of these are just can be summed up by just saying kill all the bosses, and then these 4 are just beat the game, essentially. So, those we will be getting to. Anyways, we got more tutorial dialogue. On any screen at any time, you can hold H and seek contextual help for controls in that mode while trying to travel around town, exploring, fighting, camping, and more. So, if we press hold H, we got a little description of everything that's going on and what we can do.
Also, I apologize for continuously coming in with Ghost Shark related stuff.
Hey, I don't mind.
So did the one we just watched ever specify what country it took place in?
I just assumed nebulously somewhere in America.
Okay, cool. The second one takes place in New Zealand.
Oh. Neat.
Also, I would also like to point out, the film we just watched aired on the Sci-Fi Channel. It was made.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
It was made for Sci-Fi.
God damn it. Okay.
I
hope my laughing isn't too loud for this.
I like how I do like how on the Wikipedia page for Ghost Shark 1, they call Ghost Shark 2 Urban Jaws a supposed sequel.
Was there not the same crew or something?
Well, not the same cast.
Is this a... Okay. I was going to say, is this a hashtag internet, but... Hashtag horror beware internet situation?
No. I think it is, like, actually... Like, it's a legit sequel.
Just different cast.
Yeah, it looks like different crew as well, actually. But,
Right. Well, real quick, just to get back on topic for a moment. Here we have the hamlet, and we have several buildings, and we have with a bunch of buildings that we can do various things throughout the course of the game. Most of these are currently locked, and which we will unlock by just simply playing through missions. But for now, we have, if I can count, 4 buildings currently available. First is Ancestors' Memoirs.
In time, you will know the tragic extent of my failings.
Sorry, I'm just going to instinctively try and not talk for those, at least for a while. Here we can view various cutscenes, as well as review journal entries that we both collect in the field, which we will get to eventually, as well as for various milestones we complete, such as defeating the various bosses. Here we have the Nomad Wagon, where we can buy trinkets.
And charms gathered from all the forgotten corners of the earth.
Since we have all the DLCs installed, no mods, by the way. At least I don't think I have any installed right now. There are 2 different versions of the Nomad Wagon. This version is the standard version. We can buy trinkets here, which apply various effects to various characters whenever you put them on. Character can have 2 trinkets at once at the same time. They go in these 2 slots here. And some trinkets can be worn by any character, and some trinkets are class specific. So, for example, this trinket right here, the Rot Gut Sensor, can only be equipped by class doctors. God damn it, plague doctors, which I believe we will get to in a moment here. The second version of the Nomad Wagon is the Jeweler, who ties into one of the DLC things. As you can see, like Jesse's Red, we can't buy any of these. Through one game mode, we will acquire crystal shards, sorry, which we can exchange for various trinkets here, some of which are very nice to have. We'll be doing these, and I'll figure out whether or not we're doing these on screen or on stream at some point, because right now, as you can probably tell, we recorded this instead of streaming it. Probably we'll switch to streaming at some point, especially towards the middle of the game where things become a bit more of a, not a slog, but just become not the most suitable to like videos like this.
Also, when do we get to the point where the jeweler kidnaps Alicia Masters?
Later.
You get that joke,
Yeah,
right?
I get the joke. For anyone who doesn't get the joke, he's
That's
referring...
reference Fantastic Four 1994.
Yes. The best actual Fantastic Four movie that didn't get released.
Yeah.
Now, and on each of these corners here, we can upgrade for each of these buildings, except for like the Ancestral Mound or whatever. We can upgrade the establishments. Here we can increase the number of trinkets that the standard Nomad Wagon will have at one time, and also decrease the cost of them over time.
Also, I meant to mention this earlier because it immediately popped in my head. This guy looks like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Which guy?
The guy you just left. Yeah, that guy.
I think that's a lady.
Well, she looks like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Okay, kind of. Sorry. The next is the graveyard.
Covered in the poisoned earth, awaiting merciful oblivion.
This is where you can just view dead characters.
Oh, fun.
Right now, we don't have any. But the list of characters here can get very long.
Yeah, I've heard this game is hard.
Yeah. For a bit, like we won't have to deal with it for we won't have to deal with the difficulty for a bit, at least towards the beginning here. But yeah, it does get quite hard to deal with. I forgot to mention the various upgrades. These are purchased with, I forgot the name of the general class of these things, but these for treasure things down here. 4 types you can collect through the various dungeon quests, and will upgrade different, and are used to upgrade the various buildings. And last,
Women and men, soldiers and outlaws, fools and corpses. All will find their way to us now that the road is clear.
the stage wagon, where we can get new characters.
Oh.
What better laboratory than the
That,
blood
just like that?
Just like that, you can grab them for free. The only free resource in this game is bodies.
That seems wrong.
No.
Okay.
I'll explain the full system later, but technically speaking, one of the most effective ways to play this game in terms of getting resources is to recruit, is known as, at least amongst my circles, as the corporate approach, where you take a bunch of new characters, you throw them in the dungeon with the worst conditions, and if they survive with the worst possible conditions, if they survive, they'll get a bunch of money, but they'll also have a bunch of negative quirks attached to them and a high amount of stress. And then you get rid of them and then bring in 4 more.
Fun.
It is cruel by design, but we're going to try not to do that. Anyways.
Yeah.
A sister of battle, pious and unrelenting.
Anyways, the stagecoach can also be upgraded here. And there are 3 upgrades. We can have more heroes available at once. We can increase our roster size, which is going to be important later. and then eventually we'll be able to access this line of upgrades, which allows us to recruit characters at a higher base level. What this isn't going to be pushing right now because most of the buildings aren't unlocked, and I always forget to use it anyway. But on this side on the side called Impure, you can just directly switch from any building to any other. But once again, most of them are variable.
Also, upon further investigation, no, Ghost Shark 2 is not a #horror beware internet situation. It's actually a American Psycho 2 situation where it wasn't originally going to be a sequel, but then because of the story, they decided, let's make it a sequel.
Ah, I see. Okay. Alright. As the game says, there's not much to do here, so we can instead embark.
A mecca of madness and
Also,
mortality. Your work begins.
I am partly concerned that with Ghost Shark 2, they may have run out of ideas because it has the same runtime as Winnie the Pooh.
As long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
Okay. When we embark, we can choose the various quests to go on. One quest that will always be available is whatever the current darkest dungeon run is. But as you can see, the level for those is level 6, so we're not going to be trying that for a while unless I go crazy and want to just kill 4 characters for no apparent reason. So yeah, we're not doing that. We are instead selecting the 2 new recruits that we have, and forming our adventuring party. The various combinations of classes will produce, just for fun, there's no special bonuses attached, will produce like fun little nicknames here. So this standard roster, since this combination of classes, if not combination of characters, since these 2 are always randomized, at least in terms of name and appearance. We'll produce the usual suspects because they're the standard for you get.
Bring out the usual suspects.
Exactly. So this first mission that we have is a short apprentice level scouting mission where we have to just explore the dungeon.
The cost of preparedness, measured now in gold, later in blood.
And then before we head on to each mission, we have a provision screen where we can buy various pieces of equipment that we can use in the upcoming quest. So we have anti-venom, which cures blight, so cures poison. We have bandages, which cures bleeding. We have medicinal herbs, which removes debuffs. We have skeleton keys, which can unlock blocked things. Holy water, which can increase resistances, and I don't know why I grabbed 2 of them. We just need 1. Probably only need 1 for this. You eventually start to get a feel for how many you'll generally need for a given quest. Anyway, holy water, which gives you higher resistances to certain like debuffs and effects, and also can be used with various interactable items to get positive effects. Laudanum, which is used to cure the horror status effect, which we might get to. But I don't generally use a lot of those. We have torches, which increase the level of light, which by the fact that I'm grabbing 12 of those, you can probably tell is important. Shovels, which can get rid of certain obstacles without damaging the party, and then food. Yeah, sure, okay. Food is used to heal, and at various points throughout a mission, you'll encounter a hunger check, sort of thing, where each party member has to eat 1 piece of food, or else they take damage and gain stress.
Huh.
I think I grabbed 1 of everything I need. Anyway, so real quick before we dive into the map itself, our 2 new party members. We've got Echoland, the Plague Doctor. Plague Doctor specializes in stuff like debuffs and blighting, as you can see here with the Plague Grenade, which is currently unlocked. A very weird sight. very useful party member to have. And the Vestal are the main healing class, one of the main healing classes of the game. But at the very least, the most common and most commonly used and consistent healing class of the game. Starts out with a single healing spell that heals 4 to 5, but she also gains a spell that heals 1 to 3 to all party members, which is very important because I'm trying to think of what I can compare this to. Going down to 0 HP is not automatic death. It's just that any attacks after that have the potential to actually kill the character. So, Reynold here is 33 HP. He can survive. Like, he could get hit right now with an attack that does 60 damage, and he wouldn't die, but he could later die to an attack that does 0 damage if his health is never raised above 0. Anyway, progress on. You select a room on the map that you want to walk to, and then hold right or just click right on the mouse to walk to the right to progress to the next room. Throughout, walk past apparently, throughout the various hallways of the dungeon and in some of the rooms, you will encounter various interactable items. This one allows us to salvage unburned torches,
laden with loot, are often low on supplies,
and occasionally other valuables that are just kind of sitting in the torch sconce. Throughout the rooms, there'll be each room has the potential to be either empty or have a collection of enemies in it, with various side effects. So this one is a treasure room with a battle. So once we clear out these enemies, we'll be able to unlock the treasure chest, which hopefully won't blight us this time. That'd be nice.
the light, the promise of safety.
Since we have a lot. Okay, I may as well explain it now. One of the big mechanics when exploring dungeons is the light level. Right now we have the light level maxed out. As you explore a dungeon, the light level will slowly go down, but can be raised back up with torches. When light level is at its highest, you gain various buffs. Like you have a massively increased chance to surprise monsters, as we did here, which allows you to have all your party members go before the enemy monsters can. You have an increase to dodge attacks, and you have an increase to scout, which allows you to be able to see what's coming up ahead of you, so you're not just wandering around blindly through the quest dungeon. If the light goes down, you'll gain various negative effects, but you also gain some other positive effects, such as an increased amount of loot, which ties in to the corporate strategy that I mentioned earlier. The corporate strategy relies on going into a dungeon and immediately putting out the torch, so that you can get a lot of loot really quickly. Anyway, now to explain that, we're just going to work on these characters here.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
As we do. Here we have the introduction of the corpse mechanic. When most monsters die, they'll leave a corpse behind. Some monsters flat out don't, and there's some circumstances where monsters won't leave a corpse, but standard, most monsters will leave a corpse behind. This will take up a slot in the enemy roster. They generally have fairly low amounts of health, so you can get rid of them quickly. They will still be blighted or bled if the attack that killed them gives them a blighting or bleeding effect. And they will go away over time, but they can be used to adjust enemy's location within a lineup. There. So they can keep some enemies in the back so long as you don't clear out the corpse initially, and getting rid of the corpse can bring enemies closer to you.
Remind yourself that overconfidence is a slow and insidious killer.
Sorry, that's a favorite line. And the enemy position is important because, as will show up at the Plague Doctor here, some attacks can only be used from some positions, and some attacks can only hit some positions. So, for example, we look at the flag grenade. The flag grenade, I can't just shift to it, but the flag grenade can only be used from the back two positions on the party side, and can only hit the back two positions on the enemy side, as signified by those two yellow and red dots. the lines between the red dots signify that I'm doing a lot of explaining this episode. The lines between the red dots signify that it will hit both enemy units in the back row.
It is evident not just in our episode titlings, but also in our commentary styles, where our influences for Let's Plays differ. You are very much a Chugga Conroy influenced LP right now.
Yeah, I like explaining things. It's a nice, convenient thing to talk about during the beginning of Let's Play.
Yeah. Whereas I'm much more like Game Grumps, where I'm not good at games, but I make funny commentary occasionally.
Which is very useful towards the late game when I run out of things to explain.
Yeah,
so we make a good team.
Yeah. I've also decided, since I spent a lot of this episode talking about Ghost Shark, my running thing in this LP is going to be each episode I'm going to talk about a different movie, because I have a thing I picked up today that I meant to talk to you about before, but I'll talk about it in the next one because it's a different movie.
All right.
So
Oh.
yeah.
Anyway.
We'll just make a thing.
Alright, so we got our next mechanic, Rubble, which if we have shovels in inventory, we can use this to clear that automatically. However, if we don't have shovels, or just for whatever reason don't want to use shovels, you'll take, like, in order to clear Rubble away, you can still clear it away, but everyone in the party will take damage, they'll get stressed, and the light level will dim. To signify the time spent to clear the Rubble. And with that, we can make, that's probably as time as I need to talk about one of the biggest mechanics in this game, the stress meter. So as you can see here, below everyone's health bar, they have a white meter that also increases over time. This white meter is the stress meter. The stress.
The black spy from Spy vs. Spy looks more stressed than anyone else.
Yeah. Anyway, so the stress meter will increase over time. Will increase over time as in our dungeon, increasing faster as light level goes down. So as you can see here, we have the debuff of increased stress, since the light level's below 90 or so. Sorry, dialogue. Having stress on its own isn't automatically bad. However, you want to try and make sure that if possible, you want to manage your stress, because when your stress level reaches 100, each character will be tested and can gain an affliction, which we will get to eventually, but hopefully not in this dungeon. And I'll explain those when we get to them. But they're mostly not great.
As the fiend falls.
I was also just reminded, because of my Spy vs. Spy joke, that there's a Spy vs. Spy movie in the works.
Really?
Yeah, I think we talked about it briefly on the podcast a while back. The most recent news of it is from over a year ago, so it's slowly coming along, but they have a director attached, the same guy who directed Dodgeball, which is somewhat promising as far as the comedic side of things.
Right. So yeah, one more thing is this: for each area, there are a variety of enemies that specialize primarily in less in actually damaging your characters, but increasing their stress level, and those are generally high priority targets to get rid of, because stress is a lot harder to lower during a dungeon run. During a quest, stress is generally a lot harder to lower during a dungeon run for a quest, and and its negative effects will generally last throughout the dungeon if they kick in. So, trying best to avoid stress whenever possible by prioritizing stress-reducing targets.
May we find victory.
Okay, and now we can see here this backbone arbalist here. He has a lot of blight. He's going to take 8 damage per round. This will kill him in the next round, so I can just flat out ignore him, which is nice. But it also introduced us to a new mechanic for this, and that's
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
dying of bleeding or blight will cause the enemy to not leave a corpse behind. Meaning that if
Another one falls.
for timing, same goes for dying to a critical hit. So if your priority is to
Confidence surges as the
bring an enemy from the back closer to the front, you may a decent
foolish horrors brought low and driven into the mud.
This insistence on pausing for the dialogue being spoken is kind of getting in the way of me explaining things.
Yeah,
So a good strategy in some cases may be to try and kill opponents closer to you in the row with bleeding or blight or crits, which is slightly less reliable. So you can bring those enemies in the back row closer rather than to deal with corpses. Anyway, so as I said earlier, when clearing the battles, you can gain various amounts of loot. You can gain gold. You can gain stuff like deeds, which are the various resources that you need to upgrade stuff, as well as trinkets and other materials. So we got a stun charm and a debuff charm, some basic trinkets here. Like an increased stun chance, but lower dodge chance. So most trinkets will have some kind of trade-off like that. Will they increase one stat but decrease another? So.
also,
yep.
Looking more into this director's filmography, Rawson Marshall Thurber is his name. Apparently, he has also, in addition to Dodgeball, he's also directed 3 Dwayne Johnson movies.
Oh.
Which, if they get Dwayne Johnson to star in the Spy vs. Spy movie, that will be the best. That would just be great. That would be great.
That would be great.
I would love that. He's also, again, there hasn't been any recent news about the Spy vs. Spy film. It's probably just stuck in development hell. But apparently the next film that this director is working on is an adaptation of the video game Tom Clancy's The Division.
Oh, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So here we have a holy fountain, which I will use to explain something else. For various interactable objects, you'll have the option to try and use one of the items in your inventory to get an additional effect. So to explain that, we're gonna holy water here, gain divine benefit, which heals us both of health and stress for whichever party member we get selected when we use it.
Also, if he gets Dwayne Johnson to star in The Division as well, that will be the 3rd video game film to star Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, shit.
Almost 4th, because we never got that Spy Hunter film.
Yeah.
But, yeah, in addition to Doom and Rampage.
Yeah. Okay, it's based off existing video game, because Jumanji's the 2 recent Jumanji's are technically video game movies, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, knowing the various interactions between items and objects is very important to surviving a lot of dungeons. So, as you can see here, we got surprised. So, when your party gets surprised, it can often lead to character shuffling around, which can cause havoc in terms of abilities. Since a lot of abilities depend on being in certain positions throughout the party row. So, I want to probably switch the Harriman forward. Let's take Dismas. Oh, also, Reynald and Dismas. Because they're the only two characters that are static between every run of Darkest Dungeon, there's an achievement attached to them. For having them survive till the last dungeon. Which is harder than it sounds.
I'd imagine.
Yeah. Let's see what we got.
I like how that guy just attacked them by showing them a scroll.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. I think I didn't explain last time. When a character gets a crit, and especially when they kill an enemy, they and at least one other character in the party can reduce a little bit of stress, which is why Dismiss is now stress-free right now, and they traditionally gain a buff. The buff depending on the class. So Harriman will get a speed buff for critting. Alright, so now that the Vestal is closer, we can show off her close range abilities. The first is Hand of Light, which, as you can see with the description out there, is just a really regular damaging attack that does extra damage versus Unholy, and gives a damage buff. It looks like. I don't use the attacks on Vestal very much, so yeah. But Combat Vestal is a way to play a Vestal. The other is a basic melee ability, which is where the damage boosts can come in. I'm used to that version of playing. Anyways, speaking of attacking scrolls, more scrolls! What is with this dungeon and giving me shovels? I've encountered one roadblock, and this thing has given me 3 shovels.
I mean, you do have you do have the lead of a Shovel Knight spin-off in your party.
Yeah,
so, well, that's I guess not a spin-off, more of a DLC.
Yeah. Plague Doctors. It took so long to learn that the Plague Doctor class, like members of the Plague Doctor class, are women. Anyway, because each class type is like a dedicated gender, so Vestals and Plague Doctors are always women. Crusaders and Highwaymen are always men, so on and so forth.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Heirloom chest, as you can see, it's a big chest with a lock on it, so if you use a key, you unlock a hidden compartment and gain some bonus stuff. Which in this case is more money.
Plague Doctors being exclusively women is just this game, right?
Yeah. Historically, whoever really, as far as I'm aware, could be a Plague Doctor.
Measure, awarded to the brave and the foolhardy alike.
Okay, as we can see here, as we see, we just saw an example of the activation of a negative quirk. So we may as well show these off. When characters get quirks, they can be positive, like over here, or negative, which are over here. Negative quirks can be a pain in the ass, and can have
God-fearing kleptomaniac.
That's Reynald. That's Reynald. He always starts with these, by the way. So Reynald's always a kleptomaniac at the beginning. The kleptomaniac quirk means that sometimes when you pass by an interactable object that gives you items, he will just steal them, and you don't get those items. So it can be a really annoying quirk to deal with.
What is the God-fearing part?
In town, we're only praying for stress relief. So in town, I believe we will walk after this mission. There are various activities you can do to relieve a character's stress between missions. They split between a tavern and just like a church. And so
He won't do it at the tavern?
He won't do it. He will exclusively do the praying action at the church. Right?
Gotcha.
So, secondary thing we could do, we can walk backwards, which is not always a great idea because it leads to a massive increase of stress because the characters are unable to turn around and therefore have no idea where they're going. It's kind of amusing, but it can be convenient if you're just going in like 1 or 2 tiles to collect a curio, which is the name for the interactable objects in a lot of cases. Probably should torch first, but fortunately I can do it while they're opening the door. Okay. Let's see what the negative quirks we have here. We have Nervous Bleeder, so when Griffin here is inflicted with bleeding, she has lower accuracy. Our Plague Doctor has lower disease resistance, which we will get to eventually. And
That is ironic.
yeah, it is. It is very ironic. Uh, and also gains stress when she misses attacks, which is not great. And Dismas is a known cheat, and is thus not allowed to gamble in town.
Oh, that's funny.
Also,
That's really funny.
I would like to point out that despite having the -10 disease resistance, our Plague Doctor still has the highest disease resistance in the party.
Well,
Oh, right. Bags. Okay. You got some more food, which I may as well use to heal. If Pasacurio was not looking, I'm going to be doing that a lot. Okay, and here we have a hunger check. This exerts 4 hunger. It heals 5% of each party member's health. And if you don't eat, as I mentioned, bad things happen. Alright, now we got the quest is complete, but since this is the early dungeon, I'm just going to take the opportunity to show off that you can just keep exploring, as I mentioned earlier. Hazards, risks, and rewards.
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted. And
There's a second
made
barrier. You
clear.
can use the shovel there. Finally, okay. And potentially get more treasures, which we will need over the course of the game. Wonderful, another treasure room. Alright, oh. And this guy. Bone... Curia, whatever. He is a stress-inducing enemy. He sucks. That's the best that I got for describing him. He just kind of sucks. I forgot to switch everyone back to their normal positions. Damn it. Oh well, I guess we're using the Bestial for melee damage still. It's good that she dodged that. Ah, okay. With that first resistance up there, the blue resistance indicates the resistance for movement. Some attacks, both from your party members and from enemies, can move characters around the party. Some characters have it built in. Some classes have it built into their playstyle. Some don't. So depending on your loadout, those could be hazardous. No one we have here, at least with their current abilities, is really set to shuffle around the party a lot, so... I probably should have gone over the pocket type abilities. We have Blending Gas, which stuns back row, which we could just use now, why not? And then Emboldening Vapors, which buffs the target. Also, you can see towards the top there, it has limited uses. So some attacks can only be used a limited number of times. I believe some refresh per battle and some refresh per quest. I forget. It's not normally an issue for me. I normally just instinctively save those anyway. So I forgot to stun. Oh whatever. He'll be dead soon anyway. Okay, and now that he is blighted, next time he has a turn, he will die automatically, so we can just kind of run out the clock and not have to deal with him. Which I'm gonna do because I find it funny. Yeah, sure, let's buff someone for no reason. Just to show off that it works.
Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Alright. And now we have a limited, as you can see, we have a limited inventory, so we got a lot of things to explain in this episode. Not surprising. But we have limited inventory, so we can only carry a certain amount of stuff at a time, which means we'll have to pick and choose what things we bring back with us. So, rubies here are very valuable, so I'm going to swap those out for the medicinal herbs, and since we're not doing any more battles, I'll take a portion and swap it out for bandages. We lose the items that we swap out, but we gain the items that we keep. So, I get more heirlooms. That's the term. And now that we've explored everything, still nothing left to do, so let's leave.
How long do you want these episodes to be, by the way?
Well, we're going to end this one right about now, so because it's been an hour, that's long enough. So, as you can see here, items that we don't use can be sold back for a bit of treasure. So it's not a complete loss if you bring an item that you don't need. And at the end of each run, the heirlooms and the treasures that you get are tallied up. Your quest rewards are given, so we got a blight charm, more crests, and more money. And once again, everyone gets resolve for experience points and quirks. So what does Ecoland get? Ecoland, it's probably pronouncing it wrong. Tone deaf. They receive 20% less healing from the move Inspiring Tune, which we have not encountered yet, and probably might not encounter for a bit. So we will need to deal with that at some point, but not yet. And Griffin is a ruins tactician, which means she does extra damage while in the ruins area. But she has Hagiomania, whatever. She is obsessed with sainthood, which has various effects.
Tents are pitched, banners fly, and the corpse wagons stand at the ready.
Alright.
The circus has come to town.
And at the end of each quest, we'll get an update. Often, I'll get to the speed never in a minute. Often these will include like a little notice where some kind of events going on in town. Here, we have the arrival of the first DLC, the Butcher's Circus. I can explain that real quick, I suppose. Since we're not doing it we're not going to be doing it right now. I might even on a live stream at some point. The Butcher Circus has a funny story behind it. So, on April Fool's Day a couple years ago, I think it was a couple years by this point, the Darkest Dungeon devs made a joke post on Twitter announcing that they were implementing like a PvP, like a person versus person multiplayer battle arena mode to Darkest Dungeon. And it was set up as a joke. Like, oh, haha, wouldn't it be funny if they did that? But based on this post, it's clearly just an April Fool's Day joke. And then the next day, they announced it for real. And that's the Butcher Circus.
That's good.
So yeah, the Butcher Circus is the PvP arena.
A debauched contest of survival. The Butcher's Circus is all these things and more.
Which I have not practiced with, so when I eventually do that, that's going to be a thing. Oh boy. Progress in the Butcher Circle, it works a little bit differently from other places. For one, progress you can see here will carry over between campaigns. You will not, and heroes that die and trinkets lost in the circus, and trinkets gained in the circus, not die. Heroes used in the circus and trinkets lost in the circus are separate from those in your main campaigns, so you don't have to worry about the circus impacting you a ton. And the circus operates on seasons, and we've missed the end for season 3, so we've missed the awards we'd gained from that. And yeah, I will do this eventually, but not right now. Because it's the end of the episode, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm scared to try it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've unlocked a bunch of other stuff. Real quick, I'm gonna explain things.
Cards and curtained rooms promise solace to the weary and broken alike.
We've unlocked the 2 stress-relieving rooms. The first here is the tavern, which allows you to go to the bar, you go to the gambling hall, or have sex to relieve stress.
Oh my god! They ripped this off from Shark Tale, the video. No, legit, there's a part in the Shark Tale video game, it's just one level that does this, but like, Oscar the Fish goes into like women's apartments to recover health.
Oh, like in reminds me of Zelda 2, where Link, to recover health at towns, just goes into a random person's house. Anyway, so the bar, gambling hall, and the brothel can each be upgraded to fit more people at once, to reduce less cost and heal more stress. Progressively, the bar, gambling hall, and brothel, in that order, require more money to use, and each of these has special additional effects that can go on. That can happen. For example, when you see in the bar, a character can get drunk and then lose an item.
Oh.
The gambling hall, they do gamble with money. So sometimes you can send someone to the gambling hall and then they'll lose additional funds for you. Sometimes they can but sometimes they can gain funds. And then the brothel, I don't use it that much because it's expensive than the other two, so I just err towards these two. I use the tavern, but I know you can get certain diseases from the brothel.
Oh, god damn it. I was gonna make a joke about that too and held back. And then it's actually a thing.
Yep. And then
The cobwebs have been dusted, the pews set straight. The abbey calls to the faithful.
And then in the abbey, the church thing I was talking about earlier, is the slightly more religious variant. So some characters will with it. Cloister, Transept, and Penance Hall each work in similar ways. These also have special effects that can trigger. I forget what they all are, but they relate to quirks.
I'm sorry. Flagellation or flagellation brings absolution. They flag you in this?
No, you do it to yourself is the idea.
Oh.
Like, when you use... I'm not going to do it because it's expensive, but when you set a character to the Penance Hall, like, when you set a character into a thing, like, it'll end stress, so we'll just do it to the cloister real quick. Probably should have upgraded the cloister to be cheap before I did that, but whatever. They have various visual effects in front to signify that they're using it, and then you can cancel out, but I'm pretty sure that doesn't give you the money back. For the Penance Hall, just blood comes out from under a door. It's very pleasant.
See, like, when you got to the church, I was gonna make a joke about how here you have to get married before you go into the brothel. But then they have fucking flogging, which is...
Oh, they don't...
choice.
We have only just begun with the flogging.
Oh?
Okay,
Oh?
it's a spoiler for later, but I'm going to have to actually give you context for that. There is a character class that comes with one of the DLCs called the Flagellant.
Okay.
Whose thing is he flogs himself. And is a character based around helping the rest of the party by constantly dying. He's actually one of the most powerful character classes in the game, but we'll get to him later. Anyway.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so this has been episode 1 of our Darkest Dungeon playthrough, and Noah is already distressed.
This game is a lot kinkier than I expected any game you play to be.
There's quirks for that. Anyway. Like, there are certain quirks where characters aren't allowed in the brothel for, quote, deviant taste, which you can interpret however you want.
Ah. Wow. Okay. Oh.
Anyway, I've been Jacob.
I'm Noah.
Adios. Did you say peace? I just speak over you.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Anyway, see you guys in the next episode when Noah may or may not get more distressed.